Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders of Transformation. I recently met someone over Facebook who is just got a tremendous story. Cheryl Ilov actually is a friend of Polly Latovsky. So some of you may have heard the episode that I did with Polly not that long ago, who is the first woman to walk around the world. Well, Cheryl reached out to me and she said, I love the interview and I'd love to be on your podcast. And so we ended up going back and forth and talking, and I got a chance to hear a little bit of her story, which she's going to share with you today. And it's just totally amazing. And what really resonated with me at the time, and the reason why I was like, oh my gosh, we really, really need to have you on the show, is because she's going to talk about your ability to heal yourself. And this is a subject that I've been talking to people a lot about, and even for myself, health issues, reoccurring health issues. How do you deal with that? And I was actually having lunch with a friend who has a back issue. Remember, Cheryl, we were talking about that. Had someone with a back issue, and I was suggesting to him that perhaps that was a blessing to him, that perhaps that was an opportunity for him to heal himself and to be able to, through that, also then heal other people. And so Cheryl has done that. I'm so excited because it's like it just proved my theory that you can do that. And so I'm really excited to have her here with us today. Cheryl, welcome to Leaders of Transformation.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And Cheryl, Cheryl Ilov, what a great name. I love your name. And I'm sure you've heard that joke before, but it's true. I do love your name. Cheryl has a master's degree in physical therapy, and she's actually going to tell you the story of what led to that. And she's also pursued extensive training in Pilates, dance, Feldenkrais, and even martial arts. She's got her black belt. And I think she's got such a vibrant energy, and she's got a book called, what is it? Fit, Fabulous, and Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous at 50 and Beyond. And those of you that may be watching the video are going, she can't possibly be beyond 50. She is, and she looks amazing. So she is her best customer. So with that, Cheryl, why don't you just dive in and tell us about your story and what led to you getting into this world of physical therapy and
certainly.
health? Yeah.
Yes. Well, if you would have told me 30 years ago that I would have been writing a book on fitness over 50 and feeling fabulous, I would have probably laughed, and then I would have cried because things weren't going that well for me in my 30s. In my mid-30s, I started to get a little bit of an insidious onset of tightness and discomfort in my low back, and it quickly spiraled out of control to sharp, stabbing, shooting pains across my back, down both hips, into both legs, all the way down to my feet. And in a matter of just a few short months, I was transformed from a vibrant, healthy young woman to a chronic pain patient. And for 2.5 years, I lived that life of a chronic pain patient. I wasn't a physical therapist at the time. I was a respiratory therapist, so very deeply ingrained in Western medicine. And I did everything right. I went to all the doctor's appointments, physical therapy appointments, massage therapists. I took the medication, the anti-inflammatories, the painkillers, the muscle relaxers. And I did religiously all the stretches and the exercises that the physical therapists gave me. But instead of getting better, I was getting worse. And I was just spiraling down to, it was a life that I just didn't even want to live. I wasn't living. I was just suffering every single day. And I hit rock bottom when an expert, medical expert that I was working with told me that I would never be able to do my laundry and my grocery shopping all in the same day because the arthritis in my spine was so severe, I would end up being bedridden.
Wow.
Yes. Then she suggested that I start applying for disability because she said, you're going to need it. And I was dumbfounded. I just looked at her and I said, you don't understand. I'm planning on going back to ballet class. And she laughed in my face and said, you don't understand. You're not 18 anymore. And this is your new normal. So don't worry. We will help you manage the pain. Well, I went home and I just hit rock bottom. You know, she took away my hope. She shattered my dreams because I was planning on becoming a physical therapist, and she actually just destroyed my spirit. But she actually did me a favor because I had an epiphany. I had to figure this out on my own. I couldn't look outside and depend on somebody else to fix me or to heal me because it really wasn't working that well anyway. So I fired all my caregivers. I stopped taking all of the medications, and I just intuitively started to go back to how we learned how to move when we were infants, babies, and children without somebody directing us how to move and what to do, but figuring it out for ourselves. So it's organic learning, organic movement, visceral, and figuring out if I move a certain way, this feels right. If I move a certain way, this aggravates my back. It was a tedious process, but in a matter of several months, my pain levels decreased by at least 50%. And then I continued with the process, really listening to my body, the messages and the signals that my body was sending to me, and started to go back to ballet class, just 10 minutes at a time, 20 minutes at a time, and gradually got myself back to a place where I was completely pain-free.
That's
And
amazing.
it is amazing, and it's shocking how simple it was. You know, at the time, I didn't think it was that simple, but just going back to the basics and getting rid of all of the extraneous stuff that other people were putting on me, plus giving me that label, that title of you are a chronic pain patient. And so I became it, I was living it. And when that woman said that to me about, you know, I'm never going to have this life that I dreamed of and that I wanted, there was something deep inside my core that said, no, you are not a chronic pain patient, and that's not how you're going to live the rest of your life. So after that, my recovery, shortly after I recovered, I was accepted to the physical therapy program at the CU Health Sciences Center, Colorado University, and I graduated just 3 months shy of my 40th birthday, which put me in an interesting category because after sitting and studying and doing nothing but eating junk food for 2 years straight, I was in terrible shape. I mean, I had gained weight. I had lost any flexibility that I ever had before. And it was like, oh my gosh, here I am again. I'm not in pain, but look at me. And I can't even walk up a flight of stairs. So I started asking for help from some of my colleagues. And I had a delightful young man who wanted to help me. And he put me on this weight training program. I thought, well, that's a lot of weight for me to be lifting. No, you have to do that. And so I'm like, okay, I'll go along with this. But he lost me when he told me that I simply had to eat more and take in more calories if I wanted to lose weight. And I thought, that doesn't make sense. And I looked at him and I just couldn't help myself. I said, I'm just guessing that you have never been a woman over 40. He didn't think it was funny, but I thought it was hysterical. But once again, I was going into my habit of looking outside of myself for somebody else to help me or fix me or tell me what to do. So I just went back and did exactly what I did when I got out of pain. And it didn't take that long, and I was able to get back into shape. So I was 36 quite a few years ago. And now the things that I'm doing, I'm taking ballet class at least 4 times a week. I did do a martial art training. They had to drag me on the mat, kicking and screaming, and not in a good way. And I said, okay, I'll take a few classes to prove how much I hate it. But I absolutely loved it, and 10 years later became Sensei's first female black belt at the age of 57. So my message is that we never have to stop. It's not about exercise. It's not about building muscle. It's about building the muscle and the strength from the inside out. Mm-hmm. We focus so much on the external look, and fitness isn't a size or a number. Fitness isn't about how you look. It's about how you feel and being able to do the activities that you want to do and love to do for the entire course of your lifetime. That's what it's all about. I'm a physical therapist who hates exercise and thinks that chocolate is food. So I hate exercise.
You and me both.
Yeah, there you go.
Sign me up.
I love to move. And it's just all about moving for the course of your entire lifetime. And that's what our bodies really want. And that's what our bodies crave.
So why did you go into physical therapy? I mean, having the experience that you had,
Yeah,
you would have thought that you would have gone against it.
I don't know.
Or did you want to do it better than the person who did it for you? And
I'm not really sure. I had already decided to go to PT school before my back injury. And I'm so stubborn. I'm like a dog with a bone. I wouldn't let it go. That was a dream. And I thought as a physical therapist, I would be working with people who are a lot more proactive and health conscious and really wanted to get better, like me. And that really didn't happen. And after about 2.5 years of being a traditional physical therapist, I was done. So I just went out on my own and did my own thing and opened up my own practice, specializing in Pilates-based rehabilitation and conditioning. And then later on, adding Feldenkrais to that too.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I actually had a client at one point. She was an energy healer, still is. She's an energy healer, and she was a physical therapist. And I was sitting in her office. I was waiting. She was going to do an energy session on me. And I sat there and I watched the people come in, some of them on stretchers and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I know that, obviously they need some help, right? But I said, you're an energy healer, and you know that you could heal this quickly. And she said, that's the problem. They come in and I look at them, and I've been tasked by the doctor to do X, Y, and Z for them, or however many sessions. And she said, and I asked them sometimes, depending on, she said, I'll check my intuition, because she's very intuitive, of course, as an energy healer. And she said, I will check in with them and say, do you want to do 8 sessions, or do you just want to take care of this right now? But, the interesting thing is, you'd think that everybody would say, well, shoot, I want to take care of it right now. But that's not the case. And she had a lot of people. So she was frustrated. And I said, why are you investing and trying to pour in your time where there's so much resistance, where because you're actually going against what you really know to be true?
Exactly.
And as soon as she let that go and started going full on into the energy healing, everything changed for her, feeling happier and feeling more fulfilled in what she was doing and more in integrity with what she was doing. So, oh my gosh, you talk about being a black belt and doing all these things, so, okay, you said when you were 57. So tell us, how old are you now?
I will be 62 in September.
And so I qualified that before to know that I could ask her age.
Absolutely.
And of course, if you're in the business of helping people to look fabulous and feel good after, 50, I figured you look amazing for 62. My gosh, I want to look that good when I'm 62.
It's possible. It's the mindset, and keep moving.
And you mentioned, just for some fun, you actually mentioned just before we started this that you started something new because you wanted to act your age. So
yeah, I have a deep, dark secret, and I'll share it with you and your listeners. So I guess it's not going to be that much of a secret. But at the age of 58, I decided that it was time to start acting, engaging in more age-appropriate activities. Still doing ballet several days a week and the martial arts and everything, which was lovely. But it's like, it's time for a change, and the big 6-0 wasn't far away. So I started pole dancing.
Nice. And do you enjoy it? You still do it?
I still do it. I typically only do it once a week because the recovery time is pretty tough. I mean, it's the hardest thing I have ever done. And it's really interesting too, because it works with a lot of my fears. I hate being upside down. I really have issues with trust. A lot of them I worked through with martial arts. I don't trust my own strength. And then, of course, body image and stuff. And when I first started going to the pole classes, and I'm looking around at what these women were wearing, and I'm like, no, that's never going to happen. So I'd wear my nice little dance leotard and, shorts that were kind of long for pole. But then once I got to a point where I was starting to advance and trying to do the inverts, they said, you can't wear that because you need the bare skin to connect with the pole. Otherwise, you're going to fall on your head. So, yeah. So booty shorts and hooker shoes and all that kind of stuff.
I did 8 weeks at S Factor as a fun thing to do a few years ago. It was interesting.
How was it?
It was interesting. A lot of fun. A lot of fun. That's a whole other story for itself. But yeah, I'm 5'10", and I've got these, I
Oh,
still have the shoes. I got these, I think they're like 6.1 inches or something, like the tall ones. I thought, well, if we're going to do this, we might as well do this.
right.
So like I'm up there in the altitude.
I'm sure
It's
you.
pretty fun.
I mean, I'm
It's
only
pretty fun.
5'7", but when I first put on, I says, I am never wearing those. Never, 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 never. You know, there I go again saying never. And I went to this one studio and they had these hot pink shoes, and I'm just looking at them and I said, wow. And the teacher says, they're on sale, you know. And I said, really? And I said, I can't wear something like that. And she says, have you ever tried them on? And I said, no. And she goes, what size do you wear? Of course, they were my size. So I slipped on one shoe and I said, oh, they're not that uncomfortable. She says, put the other one on. And there were a bunch of girls watching, and one of them finally said, go look in the mirror. And it was like, yeah, I'll get them.
That's awesome.
So yeah, just continue to challenge yourself and never stop trying new things.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important piece in terms of staying young, feeling young,
Right.
And vibrant. So that's awesome. I could just picture you. That's great.
It really is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And even just the fact, like, you're so vibrant, and I've gone to your website and seen pictures, and you're so healthy and vibrant and fit. And that is fantastic. And it dispels the myth, because there is a myth, even your doctor that said at 36, well, you're not 18 anymore.
Right.
It's like, there's this mindset that we're getting old. I can't tell you how many times I hear this. You probably hear this all the time. People that are turning 40, they're like, well, I'm starting to slow down. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's crazy. I still think, like, reading scripture, you hear about these people that were 800 years old and 900 years old. And here we are talking about 40. Okay. So even I believe that we, certainly can live over 100 easily.
I do too.
And not do it in a wheelchair and,
Exactly.
like not being able to move as a vegetable. That's not what we're talking about, but living vibrantly. So let's talk about the secret to healing yourself. You said it just did little things, but it may have been simple, but perhaps not easy. Like otherwise other people would have already done it.
Correct. I think the main thing was the mindset and the belief system. And what we believe is what we become. And what we hear from other people, society, the media, medical professionals, friends and family even, is what we eventually believe, even if it goes against our inherent belief system. So I was looking in the mirror. I can even remember at the age of 30 going, oh my gosh, I'm so old and I'm so fat and I'm so this and I'm so that. And what a distorted self-image and belief system. And, where did this come from? Did I come from, a family that always said that, even in jest? And even if you say that in jest, your mind, your nervous system, our brain does not know the difference. And so it takes those messages in and really embodies them and embraces them. So just by telling yourself positive messages, or even just not dissing on yourself, is really, really powerful. So it is about the mindset and looking at people who are older than you, who are vibrant, active, and healthy. What have they got that I don't have? And a lot of it is just the mindset.
Yeah, that reminds me, there was a lady, Nuala is her name, and she's looked fabulous. I knew she was an older woman, but she looked older, but I just said, Nuala, I said, you look fabulous. And she turned to me and she said, and she had this little swing skirt on, and a Greek lady. And she was there with her husband, Theo, and lovely, sweet, adorable couple together. And she had these heels on, and just, she looked really, really great. And I said, no, you look so fabulous. And she said, I am 72 years old. And she was proud of it. And she was vibrant. But it's that mindset that she had. And I remember you tell your story about how that doctor laughed in your face. I remember being 28 and sitting in front of a doctor and saying, you know what, I came to you, you didn't give me answers, and then I went on in this journey to figure out my own thing. and at some point I wanted to go back there to get a referral to an allergist just to see how I was doing. And the doctor and I said, look, based on, she wouldn't give me the referral without them doing all their, they want to do everything. And I said, look, it's just real simple. It's not a big deal. And she said, I said, because if I don't do, like, if I don't make a change, I've already done the research and looking at my symptoms and what's happening, that, I'm going to end up with this, or this. And we're talking about serious, like diabetes, lymphoma, colon cancer, and all that. And so she straight faced, she looked at me and she said, well, a lot of people are getting it. And I was like, did you just say that? I can't believe you just said that. I'm here now. And I said, and I, no word of lie, I said to her, I said, okay, so what you're telling me is you want to pump me full through of drugs and do all these things. And look, if I come back, you're not going to help me now. Right. But if I come back and I'm 35, which I'm concerned whether or not I'm actually going to see my 35th birthday. If I come back at 35 and I have cancer, you're going to help me then. She goes, oh yes, we have radiation and we have chemo and we have all these things. And it took everything inside me, and I'm not a violent person, but it literally took everything inside me not to reach over and touch someone, and strangle her, because I was like, I can't believe you're saying this to me. And her solution to me was, long and short of it was, I kind of made a joke with her about it. I'm like, really? She said, oh, I bought a house with no asbestos in the house in the Woodbridge in north of Toronto, and where I was living at the time. And, it's where the Italians live, right? So they had their garden and all that stuff. So I said, so you're telling me that I got to sell my condo downtown, move to Woodbridge, buy a house and have my own garden, and that's the solution. She says, oh yes, wonderful. And I'm going, you're crazy. I walked out of that office, and the last time I ever saw her. And then I realized, but it was interesting because you said something that's really important. The reason why I share that is because I hear a pattern here, because I had the same thing where I said, when she said that to me, I was like, that is not the picture in my head. That's not the vision that I had. And that was the thing that drove me to go, no, I don't think I want to buy that. And so that's when I ended up spent a lot of money to figure out other solutions to it. But you had the same thing. And I think that's where this, like you talk about mindset, and what's the picture that people have of what, like, I had this picture, this vision for what my life would look like. And it didn't include having all those things. It didn't include dying at 35. I'm like, look, I'm going to live to over 100. So this isn't work. This is a mismatch
this
here.
Isn't my plan. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can't give it to me. But it's so funny. Even after that incident, that with the back pain and stuff, I actually have had at least 2 other chronic pain syndromes since then. And went through the same type of thing. It was just terrible, really, really terrible. And every single time I just clawed my way back. And every single time it was related to a musculoskeletal imbalance, that there was something in my body that was off. That's why they call it dis-ease. There's something in your body that's not moving right. You get, areas that are stuck. I like to describe it kind of like, your soft tissue. People are now finally realizing, the medical profession, that, our connective tissue, the fascia, really is a living thing. Well, yeah, it's in our body, and it communicates with tissues and stuff. And when some of that fascia, that connective tissue gets tight, the communication to certain organs and stuff actually gets interrupted as well. It's kind of like, if you use cling wrap or saran wrap, how it all gets stuck and you just can't move it. But if you have a little bit of olive oil in between the layers of the saran wrap, it flows and it moves just beautifully. And that's the same thing as what movement does for our bodies. It helps lubricate the tissues. It helps keep those layers of muscles and tissues working. So, we do stay vibrant and healthy. And it gets all the way down to a cellular level. And it's fascinating. But a lot of people just say, well, give me the pill.
Yeah.
And I've known a lot of people give me the surgery. Yikes. But that's their mindset. And if that's what works for them, bless them. That's not my mindset. I'll go down fighting the whole time. Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, it works temporarily for a lot of people, maybe, right?
Yes. Well, it
Temporarily. But
does.
then ultimately over time, now you've messed with something. So I think there's certainly a place for doctors. I
Right.
think, people go, that's my belief, is that people gravitate to doctors for answers. Like you said, they're
Right.
looking for
Right.
outside answers. They go too fast to that,
Yeah.
and they buy the outcome. How many times we
Right.
hear stories of people that have miraculously healed themselves,
Exactly.
that were told that they would never walk again, or I've
Exactly.
heard women who were told they would never have children and
Right.
ended up having 7.
Exactly.
It's like they just wanted to make a point, I guess.
Right.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but no, but so there is definitely this idea of the
Right.
mindset. Now you talk about, let's go into some depth in terms of, like, when you work with clients that
Hmm.
come to you and help, like you mentioned about the tissues and how that all
Right.
works.
Right.
For some of us, we're not as uh well versed in that area. So
Hmm.
how do you, if you're getting that happening, how do you change it? Is it through supplements? Is it strictly through exercise and movement?
Do it through
How do you?
movement is the
Okay.
way I address it, is through movement. If people want to look into supplementation or that type of thing, I mean, I know a lot of people who specialize in that, and so I always recommend, or refer them out. I love acupuncture. I think acupuncture is it's the bomb. It's just great. Cranial sacral therapy, Reiki, some of the energy that healing that you said your other friend did, the Feldenkrais. There's all of these different modalities out there. So a lot of times I tell people that I don't heal them and I don't fix them. I
Yeah.
teach them how to fix themselves. And it's through awareness and just calling attention to, did you notice how you're sitting right now? Well, I always sit like this. Huh. Okay, well, put your feet here instead and do this, and let's just put a little bit of a pillow, a small pad behind your back. And how's that feel? Oh, wow, so much better. And my back pain, is lessened. So it's even little simple things like that. We have patterns and habits that we develop that we don't realize are actually not serving us well. I mean, it's good to have habits and patterns. That's how we get out of bed in the morning and brush our teeth and get ready for the day. But some of our habits aren't supporting ourselves in a healthy way. So
Yeah.
that's what I do.
So now for you, I mean, you had major back
Mm,
injury,
mm-hmm.
so for you, you said you started to move. I'm just thinking about people, like, because back injuries is a
Right.
common thing, right?
It's
Lower
huge.
back issue. That's just the way it is. Or my
Right.
vertebrae is C, whatever their C's. I don't know. I'm
Or
not
my mom had a bad back, so I'm going to have a bad back, and
right.
that type of thing. And back pain is one of those mysteries. It really is. But I think it's just because in our society we sit a lot, and that's just our culture. And when we sit, I mean, it tightens up our hip joints. It tightens up the backs of our legs. It causes us to collapse a little bit in the chest and with the computer work and everything. So we need to actually counter that and go in the opposite direction so the body can move. Because when we're not moving our hips the way that they're meant to, and all of our joints were meant to move in the full range of motion, as my ballet master used to say, as God intended. So just taking the hip joint as an example, it's a beautiful joint, a ball and socket joint. And so you've got the cup of the acetabulum, the head of the femur, the thigh bone, and it meets together. And when we move, it glides, slides, and rolls so beautifully so that we can do the circumduction that is what our hips are meant to do. But we in our society treat it more like a hinge joint. So it just goes like forward and maybe back in the sitting, in the walking, in the doing the stairs. So if we're not doing that circular movement of that hip joint, the soft tissue surrounding the hip joint to support it is what starts to get tight, not necessarily the muscle itself. And then it puts strain and stress on the low back. And then that can go all the way up to the neck. And then that refers back down to the knee. I mean, it's just, we're a beautiful system. And when we're structurally aligned and moving from our bones and our skeletal structure, magic happens. But that's the basic foundation that we have to have, is to know where we are in space, moving from our skeleton and our bones, and then the muscles just kind of follow along. So it's a different way of looking at it. But I tell people it's a much like the foundation of a house. You wouldn't start building a house by putting up the walls and then the bricks and the mortar. It's going to collapse. You have to have a strong foundation to support it. And our bodies are very much the same, except far more beautiful, both in function and in design, and made to do amazing things.
So what if there's degeneration? Because I know that's a lot of people say, oh, I'm already too far gone, or, it's been this way for a while. How do you deal with that?
Tissues can regenerate. And, again, then too, it is up to the person. If you would like to try a few other things to help reverse the, degeneration, you can do that. It is possible, because it's living tissue. It's not that, it's the structure, it collapsed, there's nothing that can be done. So there are a lot of different movements, I don't like to use the word exercise, but it's more movement. It's more self-discovery, finding somebody who can help coach you through certain things too, to maximize your body's ability to recover, because we want to be in what we call homeostasis. We want to be in neutral spine, neutral pelvis, and we want to function, to the maximum ability.
Yeah.
But sometimes things get off, and it's scary, because when you start having pain and you think, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And you want to make sure you're okay. Then you go to the doctor and you get some fancy words describing what's wrong with you. And then it's like, oh, this sounds really horrible. And then, it just gets that cascade of fear going, rather than, oh, well, that's interesting that you say that's what I've got. And so what can we do about it? Okay, you don't have any other ideas except the medication. Well, that's okay, as long as I don't have something terrible. Because, we need to have that screening, make sure that, and that's what I use my doctors for, is like, okay, let's rule out the bad stuff and then clear me and I'll take it from there. Just, send me on my way. So yeah, that's kind of basically in a nutshell.
That's awesome. So
it's very empowering to have that much self-awareness. And then when you do go to the doctor, say, this is what's happening, and this is, you're more of a partner rather than sitting there as a patient.
Yeah, you're in control of your own health, and it's like it's like you in your story saying, no, it's my body. I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to leave the health of my body up to someone else to figure out. This is my responsibility, because it's the only one that I have. Yeah. That's great. So what are some of the things? You've got your book. You've got your classes. So locally, you're in Denver, right?
I am in Denver, and actually I closed my office last May. So to pursue a career in public speaking, more motivational speaking, to spread the news, share the message, because I think there are a lot of people, and as I have been doing my speaking gigs, it's really funny how many people come up to me afterwards and say, I've always kind of felt that way, but it's nice to have it validated. And a lot of these are people who are, 50, 60, 70 and older. I find that the younger ones, the 40-year-olds are still going like, I'm falling apart, I'm 40. And it's like, oh, you have no idea, the best is yet to come. So,
that's great. I'm 46, and that's great to hear. No, but I wanted
happens when you turn 50.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is I wanted to get better, and I believe that there's no reason why we can't get healthier and stronger as we age.
We can.
Yeah, I beat my body up years ago, and so been through that. But it learning what I've learned through the last number of years is to take care of myself and do that. So obviously it doesn't happen naturally, but or automatically, I should say.
Automatically,
it doesn't happen automatically. We need to do something about it. So tell us about your black belt in martial arts, and you said you went kicking and screaming, but then you ended up loving it. What is the biggest thing that you got out of doing that?
Oh my gosh, the sense of empowerment. My acupuncturist was my sensei was my acupuncturist and my friend before he became my teacher. And for 3 years, every time he would put needles in my legs, he would get a very thoughtful look on his face and say, with your legs and my coaching, I could teach you how to kill with those things. I
It's a weird thing to say.
I've heard a lot of things about my legs, but that was a first. And I couldn't believe anybody would think like that, let alone say it out loud. And I said, no, that's okay. But actually, right before I met him, I had had the rug pulled out from underneath me. I'd had a really bad traumatic experience. When he found out about it, that's when he really tried to get me onto the mat. And I just kept saying, no, no, no. Martial arts, I'm a fussy girl. I like pretty things and tutus and toe shoes. And so finally, 3 years later, I said, okay, I will take a few classes just to prove to you how much I'm going to hate it. So 10 years later, I became his first female black belt. In 20 years of teaching, he never had a woman achieve such a high rank. And it was the middle-aged princess that, he had to drag onto the mat. That was the one that broke that glass ceiling. And it was so funny because the men, and Mark told me, he says, oh, there's plenty of other women in class. You won't be the only woman. Well, he lied. Most of the time I was. And, the guys really didn't quite know what to do with me. And I sure didn't know what to do with them because I'm the one leaving the mat to refreshen my lipstick. And it's like, okay, no, you can't touch me right now. I'm having a hot flash. And, they're like, oh my God. But then when I started climbing the ranks and I started getting really good at what I was doing, it shocked me. It shocked them. So it was fun. I trained for about 14 years. I gave it up a year and a half ago. It was just getting a little too rough on my joints and the high accelerated throws to the floor. It wasn't very good for a body that was 60, even if it's in good shape. So I'm starting to do some more soft things like Tai Chi and a little bit of Bagua and stuff like that. So still keeping in the spirit of the martial art and that's the training in a different way.
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't want to get beat up at this point. You're like, I want to enjoy it.
Yeah,
Give me some of those more gentle movements.
Yeah, and people who would see me, they'd come to the dojo and they'd look at the black belt and they said, well, you can take it. And I was like, no, you have to go slow. You can do whatever you need to. You can throw me, punch me, kick me, hit me, pin me. I don't care. You can do anything. Just don't mess up my makeup. And, just go slow. We'll be fine.
That's funny.
But, I know. But some of them would try and, take down the black belt. And it's like, look, I know a lot more than you do. One of us is going to get hurt. And it's not going to be me. So it's like, yeah, it's time. It's time. I've proved myself. And, although I was never out to prove myself, I never even wanted a white belt, let alone a black belt. So it's really, the belts are back there. I don't think you can see them there in the background, but it's really funny. And that is the subject of my next book, is The Reluctant Ninja. So
nice.
Yeah. How
I
a
like
middle-aged
that.
princess became a warrior queen. So
I like that title.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So how do people find out? Where do they go to find out more about what you're doing and some of the
you can
programs
go to my
you have?
website, CherylIlov.com, and it's I love without an E on the end of it. Even I put an E on the end out of habit sometimes. So just CherylIlov.com. You can check out my my book, Forever Fit and Flexible, Feeling Fabulous at 50 and Beyond. It is in print. It is an ebook, and it's also on Audible too. And I did the audio version myself. And you can see some of the events, some of my speaking events, and just kind of see what's going on. I'm also launching a program, an online program called the Vitality Zone, which will be, twice a month. People can log in, and for about an hour, we'll talk about different issues. I'll have certain lessons, certain topics that we talk about. So it's a membership type of club that, they can join. And if they mention that they heard about it on your podcast, Leaders of Transformation, then I will send them a coupon code so they would get a discounted rate.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I'm thinking of different people that have had chronic health challenges that I think need to hear your story, not only on this interview, but also getting to know you more and hopefully even working with you. So you work with people online as well.
I do. I do.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get some workshops together and stuff. So, I've got big plans. So
yeah. Well, you're just getting started. I can see.
I am just getting started.
That's awesome.
It's great. This is the best time of my life. I'm telling you.
That's awesome. Well, Cheryl, thank you so very much. You're an inspiration. You bring this vitality, this joy, and this, to aging, and you're still young. Like you said, you're just literally, you are getting started. It's funny. I was talking to my uncle. My uncle is now 80, and he's been ready to pack up and go home literally, for a while. Like he's like been giving stuff away, and we're like, stick around. You might be here a while.
Yeah.
And he's also healthy. He's vegetarian now. So, he's been doing juicing and all this stuff, which, is a total transformation from, his younger days. But, I said to him, I said, look, you could be around for another 15, 20 years, 25.
Easily.
You don't know. Easily, right? So take care of yourself, find a new dream, find something. So if nothing else, I hope our listeners just even realize that no matter how young or old they see themselves as, is to have a new dream, have a vision, and have a belief, and in themselves, like decide what that vision looks like. Don't let anybody else tell them what it should be. And so that's what I would encourage them. Final thoughts that you would leave with all of,
I'm going to just follow up on what you said, the power of visualization, and see, how do you see yourself in another 6 months doing? What do you want to do? How do you want to, spend your time, a year, 2 years, and really just no limits. Don't put any limits on you. The power of visualization is just an amazing tool that can help you get to where you want to be. Even if you're going through a rough patch, the brain does not know the difference between reality and imagination. So just imagine yourself being, healthy, vibrant, active, and doing everything that you want to do and love to do for a good, long, healthy life.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Cheryl, thank you so very much. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And really, this inspired me. I hope this inspires you to believe that it's possible. You can do it. Visualize what that looks like, what you really want, and believe that it's possible. You see Cheryl, not quite 30 years. So 28 years ago, being diagnosed and saying that she would never do these things, that this was the life that she was going to have to accept. And now you see her today. If she can do it and others can do it, you can do that too. As difficult as it may appear, and there's people that I'm thinking about as I say that's you know who you are, right? is to realize that you can do this and believe. But it starts with visualization, and it starts with believing that it's possible. And then you start creating the steps to getting there, starting to move, starting to do things differently. So I encourage you to do that. Take action. Leaders of transformation, take action, because without action, nothing happens. It's just all a good idea up until that point. So I encourage you to take action on something. And if you are like 20 years old or 25 years old and you're still here with us listening, you know what? I encourage you, keep moving. Take what you've learned and say, I can apply that. I can sit properly. I can, maybe I don't want to get to that point where I have a diagnosis from a doctor. You know what? You can stay healthy. The easiest thing to do is, of course, maintenance. And so I encourage you to take good care of your body. It's the only one you have. And with that, have a great day. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Leaders of Transformation real soon.